most people that are successful grotesquely underestimate how lucky they were. The secret to success is to work harder than anybody else. Hard work and good luck is probably all, one needs, because we're all potentially smart. Be the best at some particular expertise. Applying your creativity and seeing that I discovered this, I figured this out, is going to make you a problem solver for the rest of your life. That being generous to others pays dividends like you wouldn't believe. You're on the path you need to be on. Don't question it. Execute it. Chance favors the prepared mind. I don't worry about how good I am. I just worry about everything I can do, and the rest will attend to itself. I'm very good at empathy, that is, at putting myself in the shoes of the person who I might otherwise detest. It's a good thing that, I am willing to work day and night, and I will not give up easily. Only my dead body lying right there is proof that I cannot achieve what I set out for. That we have one drug for all cancers. It will change the world from a medical point of view. History does not end with us. Either we will succeed, or 100 years from now, an archaeologist will discover what we had and say, it has been set up for profit of corporations rather than the benefit of patients. That's why I want to change it.
Hi everyone, this is Disha Dioxide and you are watching CEO Secrets, what made them successful and how we can make it. Today I will be having a conversation with Dr. Vishwanath Lingappa, who is the CEO of Prosetta Bioconformatics USA. We will be hearing about his journey and his experiences.
Thanks, Disha. I look forward to sharing my experiences with you and your audience.
Were you a brilliant student or were you a backbencher? And when did the turning point towards your success happen, sir?
I was in between. I was very good at some things and very bad at others.
Other things.
The transition, there were several transitions, I would say. Because the first transition was being sort of self-aware of what the opportunities might be and why I should care about that. That happened when I was younger, but then I've also been the beneficiary of enormous luck. Okay, and I think most people that are successful grotesquely underestimate how lucky they were. But for, the grace of God, let's say, they would have failed for 100 reasons. So I was incredibly fortunate to get into a college that has a reputation as a pressure cooker. Okay.
Already, which one is that?
Swarthmore College, outside of Philadelphia. And it was the most intense intellectual experience of my life. Never subsequently. Medical school was a joke compared to undergraduate. I found I worked as hard as I could and it wasn't good enough. And that's where I, learned that the secret to success is to work harder than anybody else. And if you work harder than anybody else, you'll be able to exceed people that are far smarter than you. And there were people around me that, I just thought I wasn't in their in their category, but I was willing to work day and night to achieve my goals. And that has been something that has stayed with me. But again, together with incredible good luck. Hard work and good luck is probably all, one needs, because we're all potentially smart, unless, someone has a specific defect, they are more or less as smart as everybody else. And the question is, do they realize it? Are they motivated? What do they aspire for? And if you execute on that and keep your eyes open for luck, because I suspect we all get
at
luck.
Some point.
Some of us seize it by luck or whatever, and others, it passes by.
Then would you say that smart work is worse than hard work, in your opinion? Because you said, there were smart people around you, but you worked hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were smarter people than me around me, but I was prepared to work literally day and night if that's what it took to match them. And if you match them consistently, eventually you exceed them, because they're not prepared to work that hard.
Right, that's the difference.
And that's the difference. And again, it's not like one is trying to exceed or compete with someone so much as it is to fully master the opportunities that have been given you. You've got to work hard. And the interesting thing is, the harder you work, the more it's enjoyable. And that was the next thing I learned. When I went to medical school, where I spent most of my time in the lab, very little actually taking the medical stuff seriously. And suddenly, again, to talk about incredible luck, even though I was a very mediocre medical student, because I was spending all of my time in the research lab, I somehow ended up with one of the top internship programs in the country.
Wow.
Well, that's great. Let's call that luck, okay? But suddenly there I am in this top program, and I'm surrounded by people who are in that program because they are the best. And now, when I say I wasn't the best, I skipped a lot of steps. So I showed up as an intern on the University of California, San Francisco Medical Ward with only 6 weeks of third-year medicine in my, why? Because they allowed me to skip the 4th year of medical school because my research had gone well. So I showed up not knowing anything.
Wow.
And I'm surrounded by these other doctors who really were the top of their classes, right? But I learned that if you work hard, if you are absolutely focused on assimilating as much as you can, you'll catch up to them quickly. In 3 months, I was just as good as any of them. And in 6 months, I was better than most of them. Oh. And because of that, got my faculty position there. But in other words, don't worry about, everybody's ahead of me or smarter than me or has had better, whatever than me. Just work hard. Be focused. Have your focus on what your goal is, and let the rest attend to itself.
How can an average student become a CEO according to you, sir?
Well, the first thing I would question is being a CEO as your goal. I don't think that's a productive goal, right? Because a CEO is just a title, right? It's not, if you ask, what does it mean? Being, let's say, a leader, you can enumerate the qualities that you would say you would want to see in a CEO, and you could say, I want to have those qualities. I would argue that the goal should be to be highly skilled at something specific, right? And be creative in that, starting in that venue that you've chosen as your career path. You know, for me, you could say I wanted to become a scientist, or I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to become a teacher. You know, those would sort of be three career paths that I followed. That's the goal, because that is, those are each productive paths where you say, if I'm a good teacher, if I'm a good a scientist, if I'm a good doctor, I can be proud of, you know, what I've done. And if in the course of doing that over a career, you garner the expertise to whatever, become a CEO, that's wonderful. But that isn't the goal in itself, I would argue, to be a CEO, because that's just a title. I would say be the best at some particular expertise. Would be a better way to phrase it.
Wonderful. What would you say is the best advice someone gave you, sir?
The best advice that someone gave me was George Palade, the Nobel laureate, who was on my thesis committee, said to me at my PhD award ceremony, he pulled me aside and he said, you have tasted success in science, and that is going to be something that's going to drive you for the rest of your life, because the excitement and the appeal of applying your creativity and seeing that I discovered this, I figured this out, is going to make you a problem solver for the rest of your life. And what he said to me was, keep doing that. Always ask yourself, what is the next problem I can solve? And what I found is it played out in I'm not interested in solving a problem that someone else is going to solve 3 months later or 6 months later without me. I want to solve the problems that if I don't solve them, no one's going to solve them for the next 5 years or 10 years or, till the next millennium. That is the challenge that I think the advice I received from Dr. Palade that has always stayed with me.
Wonderful. If a Nobel laureate has said that, then it definitely holds.
It certainly influenced me. I suppose that, along with the exhortation from my thesis advisor, who subsequently won the Nobel Prize, also Günter Blobel, who said to me, Vishu, you are one. Those who are opposing you are many. If you do not work day and night, they will crush you like a cockroach. That was a harsh thing to say, but in fact, he was right. What it does is it focuses you, motivates you to achieve your goal. And the challenge, I would argue, is how to do that without becoming a jerk. Right? That's you could say, I stepped on everybody in my way and I've succeeded. You're a jerk. No, how can you have that focus on success and still be a nice person, friendly, collaborative? And in my career, I've found that being generous to others pays dividends like you wouldn't believe. And I can think of examples where, there was a project where I did most of the work. But I said, this was a project that couldn't have been done if my colleague in the lab hadn't started it off. And so, to his surprise, I invited him as a co-author on that paper, rather than saying, no, I did all the work, what you did was of no value. No, you tried. You contributed in a small way, but one that I appreciate. And for the rest of his life, he was very nice to me because I had shown kindness and respect. And I think that's something that, the question is, how do you balance being focused on a goal, I want to achieve this goal, and also be generous and kind and supportive of others? I think there is not an incompatibility, but there's a trap that one is tempted to follow one to the exclusion of the other.
What would you tell your younger self, sir, if you had a chance?
I would say have confidence in yourself. One thing I noticed when I was a young person, and young people that I see today, is, and interestingly, often more so with women than men, is a lack of self-confidence. That is, a greater amount of self-doubt. And that's not a bad thing, because when you have self-doubt, you double-check, triple-check your work, which is how you learn. You catch mistakes, you prevent errors. But at the end of the day, having confidence in yourself, which will grow as you get more and more experience. So I would say to myself, you're on the path you need to be on. Don't question it. Execute it.
What is the mistake you see students making today that will affect their careers in the future?
Very good question. I would say students today perhaps are too focused on the immediate rather than the longer term. And that's where, if you set yourself a goal, I want to become an expert practitioner of a skill, a trade, a profession, that can't be done overnight. That requires hard work for years. And one should do that out of love of that, profession or trade or skill, and because it's a way to, honor those who have made this possible, and contribute to the society.
Was your path to success easy, sir? Was it just luck, or was it hard work?
It was a combination of both. I think it was the Nobel laureate, who was it? Jacques Monod, I think, who said, chance favors probably many people said this, chance favors the prepared mind. So luck is chance, things that randomly happen that you seize rather than let it go by. But that is best seized when you're prepared. And preparation requires hard work. So I think the two go hand in hand. And as I said earlier, I don't know how good I am, but I know that nobody will work harder than me. And I don't worry about how good I am. I just worry about everything I can do, and the rest will attend to itself.
Did you ever feel like giving up? And what kept you going when you did, sir?
That's an interesting question. Of course, even someone else as self-confident as me has moments of doubt and questioning. And at different times in my life, it's been different, individuals or others that have motivated me. I remember a time. I specifically remember calling my mother in my second year of college, saying, "This is too difficult. I can't." And I was crying on the phone. This is before cell phones. I, had to go to the, the central area where they had, phones you can call up. And I called her. I said, I can't do this. And she talked me down and you said, reassured me, and I ended up, getting, high honors and doing extremely well, but by working very hard.
What was your biggest obstacle, sir, and how did you overcome that obstacle?
Some would say that's still, the wheel is still in spin. But I would say a huge obstacle is lack of, confidence in oneself and questioning, should I take the easy way out rather than the longer term vision that I had set for myself. And that's where, again, it's a double-edged sword you have self-confidence, but that self-confidence sometimes fails you. And you need to, at some point, say, I right now don't see the path, that I know I am on the right path, but I don't see it. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep going towards the goal until you see the light again, it'll come back. Usually the next morning after you've had a good night's sleep. That's another thing. Don't sleep deprive yourself.
Right.
Because that leads to despair.
What sacrifices did you make to reach your current position, sir? And how did it affect you?
I mean, again, one person's sacrifice is another person's, enjoyment, really. So I didn't go to a lot of parties. I, didn't engage in, actually, what my thesis advisor said, in a letter of recommendation that someone else showed me, that he wrote me many years later, he said, the thing about Vishu is he will work relentlessly and is not distracted by hedonism or noise.
Oh.
Okay? It's true. Don't let silly things of the moment distract you from your goal, from the vision you think you can achieve, and set the bar high and work as hard as you can.
What are the 3 things or unique skills that you think made you successful?
So that's an interesting one. So one new one that we haven't talked about is I would say, lucky path I took in college. I actually arrived there as an economics major, despite my my biology background of my parents both being biologists. But I was interested in economics, and for reasons unknown, was drawn away to biology, and yet, although I became a biology major and, went into science and medicine,
kind of disappeared.
Well, it didn't completely disappear. And so I took a lot of history and a lot of philosophy in my college time. And that, I would say, was the most valuable intellectual experience of my life. Because what it did is it gave me a different perspective on what's the point of all this. Why are we? Because when you get to a certain point of exhaustion or despair or, lack of confidence, it's very powerful to have a view of history and an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. And that came from my study of history and philosophy in college. And literally the ideas that are unique to my company came out of that philosophical perspective that is not, most scientists don't have that background. They approach philosophy in a much more naive way than you get having studied it and seen the limitations of one school of thought or another. So I would say that was a huge contribution to me becoming who I am. And I've already mentioned the hard work and hard work towards a goal. And the final one is, I think I'm very good at empathy. That is, at putting myself in the shoes of the person who I might otherwise detest. Right? The person who you say, this is my enemy, and anything I can do to bury that person, I have an impulse to do. And then you stop and say, let's take some pity on this person. I thank God I'm not him. Right? And now out of that comes some empathy to be kind, even to the most obnoxious person, and recognize that in their own small way, they may be contributing to your success. And I've had very specific examples of that happen to me.
What are the problems your company is solving, sir?
So we believe we have discovered a fundamental level of organization of information that goes beyond genomics. And because it goes beyond genomics, it's really almost futuristic and has resulted in small molecules that are active in very unusual ways for diseases that currently have no treatment, no cure, no treatment. And the challenge is, how do you bring something that really is almost from the future to the present? It turns out the barrier to doing that is enormous. Hence, it's a good thing that, I am willing to work day and night, and I will not give up easily. Only my dead body lying right there is proof that I cannot achieve what I set out for.
Wonderful. What are the real life products where your company's products are being used as of today?
So as of today, we have no products in the market. We have small molecules that have been validated in vitro and in many cases in vivo in the model systems available that suggest they will be transformative treatments for oncology, neuroscience, respiratory, viral disease, and other ailments. The challenge is for us is to find the resources to go from proof of principle preclinically, in vitro and in vivo, which we have, to human clinical trials. That's expensive, it's difficult, and that's the challenge, the struggle we're engaged in right now.
And what do you feel like is the vision? Like after that, what do you think will happen?
So, my vision would be that if we are successful, it really transforms healthcare in fundamental ways. It creates clinical therapeutic possibilities that can't even be dreamed of today. Wow. I mean, having a small molecule. So right now, if you get a viral illness, you know it's coming. You have a sore throat, a runny nose, your head feels a little congested. You know that tomorrow you'll probably be sicker, and the next day sicker than that, and then coughing, and so on. You know that's what's going to happen. It happens to all of us 3 times a year at least. And that was before the pandemic, right? So what virus is causing that? Well, 70% will be rhinovirus. No big deal, just a cold. Except if you're elderly or have a premorbid condition, diabetes, hypertension, lung disease, rhinovirus can kill you.
Oh my God.
Okay, there are patients in the hospital that I and my colleagues have seen who died with respiratory failure, and the only pathogen recovered was rhinovirus. So it is not a benign thing, even though it is only a small number of people that will die. Tell the person that's going to die it's no big deal. It is a big deal,
It is a
right?
big deal.
So, but what's the problem? The problem is and there's very good data that the earlier you treat, the more effective. Well, that's not surprising. That's true for everything, right? Any problem, if you can detect it early, you can prevent it from the consequences. Yeah, exactly. So the problem, though, with respiratory viruses is it influenza? Is it corona? Is it RSV? There are 6 different viral families, rhinovirus, that cause respiratory disease. And they're completely different in their structure, their life cycle. Some of them are enveloped viruses, some of them are not. Some of them are DNA viruses, some of them are RNA viruses. They're so diverse that if you target the virus directly, no one drug will work on all of them. And that's the problem. You know you're going to get a cold, but you don't know what it is. By the time you take a sample, send it to the testing, find out what it is, it's too late. We have a drug that works on all respiratory viruses. So the minute you have a sore throat, you could take it and cut it off in the bud.
Wow.
But that's a concept that is very hard to convey because even experts in the field have never dreamed that that is possible.
Right.
But we have a drug that does that works, that has been efficacious in animals, in human lung tissue, recreating the human respiratory tract.
Oh.
So we will get there, but to get there, we need to raise millions of dollars. That's our current challenge. I give that as one example of, talk about a transformation. Now, I don't know, many people have asthma and chronic lung disease. Well, you know what is the trigger of most asthma exacerbations and chronic lung disease exacerbations? It's a viral infection. So what may give you a sore throat, then a runny nose, coughing, gives an asthma or COPD sufferer an exacerbation. They end up in the hospital, they end up or in the emergency room, often admitted to the hospital with huge, not just costs, suffering.
The seemingly unharmful
Yeah,
virus.
exactly. Rhinovirus can do that. Well, if I can treat the minute I have a sore throat, I prevent the infection of the throat from going to the lungs.
Right.
I will prevent that. So the benefit of these transformative drugs, it changes the way we think about respiratory disease. I'm giving that as an example. This summer, a member of our team won the national U.S. competition, ARPA-H dash, with her evidence that we have one drug for all cancers.
Oh.
And now the challenge is, that's impossible. Wait, it's the data from the National Cancer Institute that has confirmed that. Now, we are slowly moving this forward, but if we're successful on either of those two, it will change the world from a medical point of view. And similarly, I can talk about neurodegeneration, inflammation, antibacterial, HIV. We have very novel ways of thinking about how to use these molecules that work in a very unusual way that we discovered because of our philosophical perspective, recognizing that what you think is true today will not be true in 5 or 10 years, just like we can look back at Aristotle and some of the ideas he had and you say, what was he, an idiot? No, he was the most brilliant person of his time. But the difference between him and us is a few thousand years.
Yes.
And there's a lot been learned then. And here is a phrase that I say is the phrase I contribute to the world. History does not end with us.
Right.
And if you recognize that, then you know that what we shouldn't be we shouldn't be trying to find the truth, because, and I guess Hindus know this, that Maya is the world we see. Well, what we should be focusing on from a therapeutic perspective is, how can I transform the reality that I see? And the respiratory diseases, the cancer drug, these are examples. We have a number of them, and they've come out of this very novel platform we've developed.
That's actually fantastic news. Imagine this.
I believe if we can, either we will succeed, or 100 years from now, an archaeologist will discover what we had and say, oh, okay, I'm not going to let that happen if I can.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Exactly. I hope not. I and my colleagues will do everything we can to make that alternate universe not be the one we live in.
What do you think is the future trend of your industry, sir?
Well, if you want to say the pharmaceutical industry, I have a very low opinion of the pharmaceutical industry. Because it has been set up for profit of corporations rather than the benefit of patients. And the way it has practiced, in fact, documentably practiced, in fact, is not to seek innovations that transform things, but simply find a drug that is marginally better than the existing drug, because you get now a new patent life, you can make more money. So I hold the industry I'm in contempt.
Oh.
But that's why I want to change it.
What general skills do you look for in a potential employee, sir, other than, a science background or something like that?
I don't even think a science background is critical, because one of the nice things about biology is you don't need to be really expert in math. I mean, you need to know how to do, simple calculations. And by the way, if you don't know them, you could learn them in about, a week. Right? I mean, it's not difficult, right? What I look for is curiosity, is interest, is discipline. That is the ability to, stick with a task, not get distracted. So, someone I'm in, who's doing an internship, who's easily distracted, starts wandering around, not paying attention, not taking good notes. These are signs of someone who hasn't developed their ability to assimilate information, which is unfortunate. And, again, for the purpose of the internship, I will do everything I can to help them remedy that, but they're not someone who would be a good fit for what I am really looking for. Now, they can prove me wrong over the course of an internship. I still remember when I showed up in my advisor's lab, which was under not pleasant circumstances of having been rejected from an MD PhD program, but I was in medical school. What am I going to do? I said, I just want to come and work in your lab, just because science is what I love. And he said, you're not going to have any time. You're in medical school. I said, just give me a chance. And he said, okay, I'll give you a chance. And that changed the trajectory of my life. Yes. Exactly. I worked day and night. I still remember at 2 a.m, I was working in the lab, and I heard somebody coming in the door. I said, who is coming in at 2 a.m? I'm the only person here. And it was my advisor in a tuxedo. He was coming back from the opera or something, but he had to take down his sucrose gradients, the experiment that he was doing. And that, again, it's influenced me. It's like, even fine, he's, senior and advanced and, going out to the opera, but he's got his experiment running, and he will come in at 2 a.m. to finish it.
Priorities.
Yes, exactly. So that was very influential. And so I look in a new trainee or someone I'm interviewing for that spark of they're disciplined, they're curious, they're interested, and they're prepared to work very, very hard.
What or who was your biggest motivation, sir?
You mean inspiration?
Okay.
You mean? I think my parents, because I look at their struggle and how much more advantages I had because of what they, achieved and provided me. I can't let them down.
Right. That's something wonderful to drive you.
Yes.
How do you stay motivated every day, sir?
I believe, again, I have enormous self-confidence. So I believe that if we don't achieve this, the world will not get it for another century.
Oh.
So again, failure is not an option.
Right. Now we'll talk about your advice to students, sir.
Yes, yes.
What is the future trend in jobs, and how can we as students prepare for them?
I think it's, on the one hand, it's very hard to predict. Your world will be very different from mine.
Yes.
My experience and choices may not be the ones I would make if I were in your shoes.
Yeah.
But I think there are certain truths that withstand the test of time, as it were. And they're the ones we've already talked about. That is hard work in which you are learning new things and enhancing your creativity can be put to productive path. Right. No matter what. So you can never go wrong as long as you ask yourself, am I learning something new that I didn't know before? And can I see how I will use that knowledge to enhance my creativity, enhance my society? And then that's all the motivation you need.
Wonderful. Could you give 3 tips to students who aspire to become successful like you, sir?
Well, again, I would emphasize the goal shouldn't be to be successful, because what does successful mean, right? Does it mean successful have a lot of money? There are a lot of wealthy people who are miserable, right? I would say you should aspire to really 3 things would be to learn as much as you can, to contribute as much as you can to your society, and to be thought of by others as someone who, was always honest and helped them achieve their goals too. I think if you stick to those 3, you can't go wrong.
How important do you think networking was in your career, and how can students develop their own networks?
I mean, that's, I would say, more introverted in my personal, sense. So I'm not the person to talk to about as a good networker is my brother, okay? Because he can't enter a room without engaging in 15 conversations and making new friends and so forth. That's not me. So again, I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with networking if that's who you are. I don't think it's essential to do. I would say do what's comfortable. And, whether you are, I mean, I personally would rather have a few small, deep conversations than 50 superficial interactions. Now, not that superficial interactions aren't important, because you meet people who in the future you have someone to call when there is something that could benefit both them and you. So there's nothing wrong with that, but everybody's different. You can't take someone who is introverted and make them the world's biggest glad-handing extrovert. But, everybody has to find their own balance.
Right. Now we'll move on to the rapid fire questions, sir.
Yes.
What is your favorite food?
My favorite food, Mysore pak.
Wow. Wonderful. If you could trade places with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
Trade places with anyone for a day. The late David Graeber, leader of the Occupy Wall Street movement, anthropologist, writer of brilliant books, who recently passed away a few years ago. I highly recommend to anyone his books, his YouTube videos. He's someone I greatly admire, recently deceased.
If you could be a superhero, who would you be, sir?
I don't believe in superheroes. I believe that we all have the potential to be superheroes. So I want to be the superhero that brings out the superhero in us all.
Wow, wonderful answer. If you could have dinner with a celebrity, who would it be and what do you like about the celebrity?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the New York Congresswoman, who I hope will one day be President of the United States if we have any hope for the future. She's amazingly articulate, clearly committed to bettering the society, and a believer in justice. That is someone I would really love to meet personally.
Wonderful. I think you already answered this question, but what one book would you recommend?
I would recommend David Graeber's The Dawn of Humanity, A New History, The Dawn of Everything, A New History of Humanity, I think is the title, with David Graeber with David Wengrow, two UK academics, an anthropologist and an archaeologist who've written a brilliant book.
Wonderful. What is your favorite movie, sir?
My favorite movie, recent movie or of all time?
Both. Name them both.
Okay. I would say my favorite movie is the Matrix trilogy. Or maybe The Lord of the Rings. Choose, but they're very similar themes.
Yes. Wonderful. Now, this is an interesting question. Yeah. If you won a lottery of 1 crore and you had to spend it in one day, how would you spend it?
I would spend it booking all of the studies we need to advance our first drug to the clinic.
Wonderful. A dedicated answer. Thank you, Dr. Vishwanath Lingappa, for spending an hour with me today to talk about your journey, your life, and how the future will evolve for us as students. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Disha, and your audience, you for posing some very thoughtful questions that I had to give a lot of thought to answer, and your audience for taking the time to listen to those answers.
Thank you for watching.